Citizenship, just the facts. While you're reading and listening, please make sure that you are following along on this note sheet. Like any video, you can pause, play, and replay anything that you miss. This to the left is, you already have this paper, it's a graphic organizer. If you look on here, I numbered the order that we're going to be talking about each one. It doesn't really go in the order you'd think it would. So, citizenship is number 1, duty and honor is number 2, rights and responsibilities are number 3, and citizenship and voting are number 4. So that's the order that we're going to go through the reading. So I would have your graphic organizer out, and I would also have out the reading, or you're always welcome to listen or read on your screen as I go along. Already a U.S. citizen? Citizenship means being a member of a country and having full rights and responsibilities under that country's laws. Some people are born a United States citizen. People who are born in the United States are automatically citizens at birth. So are people born outside the U.S. to two parents who are both citizens. The rules can get a bit complicated for people born outside the U.S. who only have one citizen parent, but generally they are also citizens at birth. So if we look at our graphic organizer, it talks about birth. Two main ways to be a U.S. citizen by birth. So if I look, it's citizen parents or born in the U.S. Becoming a citizen. What if you weren't born in the U.S. and neither of your parents are U.S. citizens? You can still become a citizen through a process called naturalization. To qualify, applicants must be at least 18 years old and have been permanent residents of the United States for 5 years. There is one shortcut. People who serve in the U.S. military for at least 1 year can become citizens sooner because they have demonstrated their commitment to the United States. Applicants must also have good character, speak English, and pass a civics test and an interview. As a final step, they must take an oath of allegiance, swearing loyalty to the United States and our Constitution. So we have 6 requirements for naturalization. And what I've done is I've underlined those for you. So for naturalization, we have to look at what I've underlined. Be at least 18 years old, reside in the United States for 5 years, have good character, speak English, pass a civics test and an interview, and also take an oath of allegiance. Allegiance. Citizens owe it, which goes in the allegiance box. People who go through the naturalization process aren't the only ones who must be loyal to the United States. All U.S. citizens owe allegiance to our country. Treason is the act of betraying your country, and the U.S. Constitution makes this crime punishable by death. People who are born citizens may not think about allegiance as much as people preparing to take the oath, but you may probably remember a time when you've said this word, or maybe even this morning. Americans often say the Pledge of Allegiance to show the loyalty to the United States flag and the nation that it stands for. Love of country, also known as patriotism. Beyond owing allegiance to the United States, most U.S. citizens feel a deep bond with their country. We call this feeling patriotism. Many citizens get emotional when they hear the national anthem, which is called the Star-Spangled Banner. Every July 4th, Americans celebrate Independence Day, the day the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, when the American colonies declared their independence from Great Britain. Other national holidays, such as President's Day or Martin Luther King Day, honor the lives and sacrifices of important Americans. Memorial Day and Veterans Day are 2 national holidays honoring those who lost their lives, served in the U.S. military, and they can be very emotional for many U.S. citizens. Rights in the United States. The United States is known for the rights and freedoms given to those who live here. The first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution are called the Bill of Rights. They list important rights that are guaranteed to all people of the United States, not just citizens. These are rights like the freedom of expression and the freedom to worship, assemble peaceably, and petition the government, as well as the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures by government officials. But some rights are only for U.S. citizens. These include the right to vote in federal elections, the right to run for federal political office, and the right to serve on a jury. Responsibilities, too. Along with all these freedoms come some responsibilities. Everyone in the U.S. is responsible for obeying laws. Citizens are also responsible for voting in elections and serving on juries when asked. Yes, these are both rights and responsibilities. Male citizens between the ages of 18 and 26 must also register with the Selective Service System. In a time of national emergency, this agency is authorized to call up these citizens to serve in the armed forces. Let's look at the history of citizenship and voting in the United States by looking at the U.S. citizenship timeline. Anything that has to do with citizenship, I'm going to underline in red, and anything that has to do with voting, I'm going to underline in blue. 1776, you must be a white male and own property to vote. 1791, all white males may not vote even if they don't own property. 1795, free white persons will become citizens after living in the U.S. for 5 years. 1848, 80,000 Mexican residents of the Southwest are granted citizenship after the Mexican-American War. 1857, in Dred Scott v. Sanford, the Supreme Court rules that African Americans who were brought into this country as slaves could never be citizens. 1868, the 14th Amendment overrules Dred Scott v. Sanford, giving citizenship to African Americans. 1870, laws change to say that white persons of African descent can be citizens. The 15th Amendment gives African Americans the right to vote. 1913, several states enact alien land laws prohibiting non-citizens from owning property. 1920, the 19th Amendment allows women to vote. 1924, all Native Americans are granted citizenship. 1940s, all laws banning Asians from becoming citizens are overturned. 1947, Native Americans are given the right to vote. 1952, U.S. passes a law that citizenship cannot be denied because of race or gender. 1965, the Voting Rights Act gets rid of all barriers to voting, such as taxes and literacy tests. In 1971, the voting age is lowered from 21 to 18 by the 26th Amendment. The naturalization oath of allegiance to the United States of America. This would be the oath that somebody would take whenever they become a United States citizen. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty of whom or which I heretofore been a subject or citizen. That I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by law. That I will perform non-combat service in the armed forces of the United States when required by the law. That I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by law. And that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, so help me God. That would be the oath that a new citizen would take. Here's what you need to do to make sure you finish everything I want you to do today. Number 1, take the quiz. You're not going to know the deal because today's the first time you're doing it, but they're usually 3 questions, 6 points total, 1 point just for answering a total, 2 points for getting it right, 0 points for not getting it done on time, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. Go back and listen to the video to find any answers, and if you're really stumped, it is open book, open note, open internet. I would say maybe go over, grab a textbook, and see what you can find. Then you're going to complete the review activities. They're checked for completion. Instructions to complete the activities are... We have a couple of activities that we're going to go through. What I'm going to do in this video and all future videos is I'm going to give you an example of how to do the work. I'm going to do one where I might help you kind of underline a key phrase, and then I'm going to expect you to do the remaining ones on your own. So let's start with letter A, citizenship checkup. Decide whether each person is already a citizen, eligible for naturalization, or must wait to apply. And if you see there, for number 1, I was born in the Philippines, but I've been living in the U.S. as a permanent resident for 6 years. I'm 28 years old, and as you can see, I picked eligible. And the reason why he's over 18 years old, he was born in another country, but he's been a resident for 6 years. And the requirement is you have to be a resident for at least 5 years. So everything there says that he's eligible to become a citizen. Next one. I'm 20 years old and I was born in Korea. My parents are both U.S. citizens. So I'm not going to give you the answer there, but I'm going to tell you that the key part is that her parents are both U.S. citizens. So just think about that one. I'll read the next 2, but you're going to be on your own for those. I'm 34 years old. My mother and father are citizens of Russia. I've been a permanent resident in the U.S. for 3 years. Is he a citizen? Is he eligible, or does he have to wait? I'm only 17 years old, but I just got to spend a year living in Paris. I was born in Helena, Montana. So tell me there, what is the most important part? Let's move on to B. Which one doesn't belong? Cross out each part of the circle that does not belong. Explain why it's a mismatch. So we have African Americans, Asians, white male property owners, and Native Americans. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross this one out for you, and it's white male property owners. So why would white male property owners be different? Well, if I think about those other three, they all had to be granted citizenship and voting rights. So that's a major difference because we learned that white male property owners were basically the first citizens and the first voters of the United States. The next one, it's 14th, 15th, 19th, and 26th, and those are amendments that they're referring to. So what I want you to do is I'm going to cross out the one that I know doesn't belong, and I want you to try to think, what do those other amendments have in common? So the one I'm going to cross out is the 14th Amendment, and think about what the 15th, 19th, and 26th do. And for number 3, we see birth, selective service, citizen parents, or naturalized. Think about which one you can cross out there. Citizenship and voting. This is a lesson about citizenship. So why all the information about voting rights? What does citizenship have to do with voting rights? That's the question you are going to figure out right here. Read the facts about voting and then explain the connection. Facts about voting. The people who vote get to choose who will be part of the government. People elected to the government make decisions about issues that affect everyone. And the people's power to vote is the way that change happens in government. So what you have to do is to explain the relationship between citizenship and the right to vote. I'm going to let you take care of that one on your own. We have a big matching section. Let's go through this one. Match each sentence with the correct ending. Number 1. Male U.S. citizens age 18 to 26 must register with, and we're going to use our graphic organizer for this. It should be pretty straightforward, something that all males 18 to 26 have to do, and that is register for the selective service. And I'll cross that one out for you. Number 2, people who weren't born in U.S. citizens can still obtain citizenship through a process called, so we have to think, if you're not born in the United States, how do you become a citizen? And that is through letter I, which is naturalization, the process of becoming a naturalized citizen. Someone who has betrayed his or her country might be convicted of, and I'm not going to give you this one, but I'm going to give you a hint. It comes down to betrayal. And the rest of these, you're on your own, but I'll read them for you. When you are a member of a country with full rights and responsibilities in that country, you have what? Another word for loyalty is what? Blank. And you can find a list of rights guaranteed to all U.S. residents in the Bill of Rights, which is blank. When Americans sing the Star-Spangled Banner, they are singing blank. Number 8, the final step of becoming a naturalized citizen is taking the blank. And when Americans say the Pledge of Allegiance, they are blank. And number 10, every July 4th, Americans celebrate something. Not so long ago. Math in social studies? Sure. Use your subtraction skills to find out how long each group has been allowed to vote in the United States. We'll do the African Americans can vote together. So for all of them, of course, the year right now, we know that's 2019. But African Americans can vote, if I go back, that's the 14th Amendment, and that came from 1868. Or the 15th Amendment, not the 14th. Do the math and figure out how long that was. I'm ashamed to admit I had to use my calculator to do that, but it is 151 years. I want you to do women can vote and people 18 to 20 can vote. If it helps, go back and look at that timeline. That timeline is really, really going to help you out with this. F. Find that flag to solve the puzzle. Right now, there are 50 states. The last 2 states were admitted were Alaska and Hawaii in 1959. Before that, no new states had been admitted since Arizona and New Mexico became states in 1912. Tell me, what did the flag look like in 1940? So, kind of, in your own words, describe the changes of the flag. Remember, as you finish the video, finish the quiz, finish the review activities. Go back through the video if you need to, and be prepared to review at the end of the period. We're going to go over your quiz and the activities and make sure that we really understand these things by the end of the period. So go ahead and get started.